I got a wonderful intro here for Dr. Lisa Baker. I was told she's a retired pediatrician and college professor, and that she is decidedly not retired, founder and executive advisor of Straw to Bread. This organization is a nonprofit group working for 25 years with one community in rural Kenya to help them achieve their goals for food, water, education, healthcare, and economic empowerment. She takes a team to Kenya for 2 weeks every May to work on projects with their partners who will become friends and family. Lisa lives a few blocks from here with her husband Troy, and they have 3 kids and 4.5 grandkids because one is on the way in Colorado, Kentucky, and
Check. Some of you know it very well, some of you know it not at all. So I'm just going to get straight to 2 things and talk about those. The reason I put this picture up here was to say this organization is called Straw to Bread. These are the women that make these baskets. And you'll see those over there. There are several different kinds. All of that stuff on that table is for sale. And it's made by these women and some others that are my dear friends. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Love it. When we first started doing this, they would make these baskets and send them to me. Thank you. Great commercial. They would send them to me and I would sell them and send the money back to them to buy food. So it was taking straw and turning it into bread. And we still do that. So whatever money comes in here, 100% of that goes back to these people that actually did the work for them to literally buy food. So our mission of this organization is to share resources and friendship with our Kenyan partners to help them achieve their vision of a healthy and sustainable community. The things that we work on, you heard already, are food, business, education, healthcare, and clean water, clean air. That should sound very familiar to you because they're almost the same. So we have a lot of overlap, and that's part of the reason we've worked on projects together. So some of the things that Rotary is involved with in this particular community are sending a child to school, and that includes 2 meals a day and also free healthcare, providing hospital medical equipment, and purchasing wells, tanks, and water filters. This little girl is very important because this is the girl that you sponsor. Her name is, who knows? Precious Gift. Yes. So she is an orphan. She became an orphan when she was 2 years old and lives with her grandmother. This is a picture taken in May. So I want to show you, these are the pictures taken through the years of Precious. So this is when you first started sponsoring her, when she was 4, and then you can see her grow up. And this is this year. This young woman, because of you, gets 2 meals a day. She also is learning to grow her own food at school, and there is a school garden. This is very important because the thing that's special about this community is it's rural, and it's a place where most people have some land, and it's only subsistence farming. There are no jobs up there to speak of, but people eat what they grow. So if you learn to grow food, then you have a capability and insurance that other people don't have that live in the city. So these orphans have land, and if they leave their land, they lose it. So they live on their land, sometimes with somebody else, sometimes by themselves, even when they're a young child. So she's learning to grow food at school. She gets clothes. She gets 2 uniforms. She gets shoes. She gets a blanket, clothes. She gets a library. And computers at her school. Now we have the first graduates of the group that started when our school started in 2010. And they've gone all the way through this school and now they're graduating from college. So this is a big year for us. She gets the best healthcare in Kenya, and I'm not kidding about that. So there was a young man there in this community that grew up very poor, just like these kids. And we sent him to medical school in Nairobi, and then he came back. That's the key. He came back to this community. He trained as a pediatrician, and he's one of only 350 pediatricians in the country of Kenya, which is 60 million people. So we have him right across the road in the hospital that we built for him and that Rotary provided equipment for. So he is a superstar. When COVID was going on, this was the young man that they called and said, we want you to be on TV and talk about healthcare for children all over the nation. So this guy is a rising star, and he is the one of this is bad news. Okay. And that is the person that she can go see if she needs to go to a physician. She gets to go to a physician. She gets to go to a specialist, and she gets to go to one of the very best specialists. And she goes right across the road. Also, she has other things because of you. She has a bed, and everybody doesn't have a bed. This was a big deal. She has a blanket at home as well. She has a new house. She has a water tank and a chimney and chickens and clothes and sheep. All of these things extra because of you. Now, this is much more than helping one child. You can see that when you send a child to school, you're supporting the school. In other words, you're paying her share of what it costs to run the school. So what that means is all these teachers have salaries, all these cleaners and cooks and the watchmen, all of those people have pay that didn't ever have a job before. There are now 296 kids that we're sending to school. There are about half of those kids that have individual sponsors, like your group sponsoring this child. And the rest of them are sponsored by just gifts that people give for education or in general. So you are making a difference in this whole community. When we needed to buy furniture because we had a new school building, we went to the local people and they built the furniture. Now, I want to go on and I'll show you when we talked to Precious in May, what we learned was she's in grade 2. She lives with her grandmother. When she grows up, she wants to be a pilot. I can't remember what it was last year, but it was something like that. And when we said, what are you thankful for? She said, I'm thankful for my sponsor. That's you. And she said, I'm thankful for life. Now, what American kid says, I'm thankful for life? Not because they're bad, but just because they take it for granted because it is so much a part of the air they breathe. It is not over there. And then the favorite things for her, the favorite subject at school is math. Her favorite thing to do is to dance, and her favorite color is yellow. These people right here, these Kenyans in the middle, are the 3 young women that are graduating this year from university with a bachelor's degree. This is a huge deal. In Kenya, only about 60% of people graduate from secondary school. About 10% go on to college or university, and that may mean a trade school, some kind of vocational training, or it may mean a university. And of those that finish the bachelor's degree, there are 3.5% of adult Kenyans. So we are catapulting these kids into the stratosphere that they never, ever would have dreamed of. But do you see little Precious is growing up thinking that's normal? This is just to give you a sense. Before there was no school, and then there was this school, and now there's this school. So things continue to just grow and get better and better. So let's talk about water for a few minutes. I love this picture because it gives you such a good sense of what the water sources are like. And this is drinking water for them. It's the water they wash their dishes in. It is, you would not want your dog to drink this water, I can tell you. And this little girl has on a shirt that somebody somewhere sent over from the United States, unfortunately, and forgot, wasn't thinking when they sent it. This says on her shirt, "I live for shopping," which is funny and breaks my heart. So in this situation, if you don't have any tap water, which they don't, then what are your choices? Well, you know, there you can drill wells, you can collect rainwater. Those things are available, right? Well, in this situation, first of all, if you have rain, climate change is very apparent where I work. It has been for about 15 years. It is a chaotic climate now. Instead of being able to predict, these are the 2 rainy seasons, these are the 2 dry seasons. Now, you never know. They never know when to plant. And there are more droughts than there are floods. There are both, and both, of course, are damaging, especially to crops. But in this case, if you don't have rain, you can't collect rainwater. That's not the solution. If you can dig through volcanic rock, which is what they're sitting on, then you can reach water. When we got there to begin with, they had dug this hole. This is about 12 feet deep. This is a ladder that they made of branches. So the ladder could only go as deep as the branch was long to build the ladder. And they couldn't do it any deeper. So they had dug down, and you could probably get a feel that this is absolutely solid rock. This is the water hole, and they have about 19 sources of water around that are water holes like this, or creeks, maybe that are sometimes full of water and other times not. So you see a woman here washing clothes by the side of the road in this dirty water. So if you have the money, you could buy water, right? Well, I'll come back to that in just a second. In an emergency, we have helped them buy water because otherwise they would die. So it has been delivered this way on donkeys. It's been delivered this way where the women in the community carry bottles of water on their heads to the orphans. It has been delivered this way where a big truck comes with water and dumps it into this big tank. And these are all the orphans lined up with their jars, their buckets that are called jerrys. And those jerrys are ready to collect water. You can see some of these little kids are going to carry this thing full of water. It's amazing what they go through just to get water. So our strategy is we do all of the above. So our plan is not, oh, okay, we're going to do all water filters, or we're going to do all rainwater catching. No, we just decided, you know what, we'll do what makes sense. We do the next thing in front of our face, and we do what the Kenyans want to do, because our whole approach is, how can we help? So when they say we need water, that's what we work on. When they say we need to work on school education, then that's what we work on. Right now, we work on all of those things all at once, but you can see that there are different priorities at different times. At some level, we are always in an emergency. At another level, we are always looking at root causes and working toward trying to solve those issues. So our approach is, yes, we do rainwater harvesting systems, which means you put gutters and collect water in tanks. We are drilling deep water wells that require big machinery. You can't just dig them manually. And we have 4 of those in progress right now, which I'll show you in a minute. And then, are you familiar with the Sawyer water filters? Because Mr. Sawyer is local. I think they live in, their office is in Safety Harbor. And the Sawyers developed this water filter really for backpacking. But they realized that this would be great in this kind of setting as well. So we've taken some of those, and I'll show you those in a minute as well. So we have been able to purchase hundreds, if not thousands, I've lost count, of household rainwater harvesting systems. This is up on a high plateau, and the rocky road in some places is worse than any Jeep road you've been on. So it's very difficult to get things up and down. In this case, you can see that this water tank is actually being carried on a bicycle. Bicycles don't last very long up there because the road is rough. So most of the transportation is here. This is called a piki, and it's a motorbike, and that person has a job of being a taxi service. So sometimes they use that. So once in a while they'll use a truck and bring a bunch of them at once, but this is more the kind of transportation. So, you know, it's whatever works. Here's an example at a home, so you can see about how big that is. That should, in normal circumstances, hold enough water for both rainy season and dry season. Rainy season and dry season. It doesn't. We did a study of this because we are very committed to evidence-based service. So we study what we do to see if it's working. In this case, we looked at how many of the tanks were lasting through the dry season. And we found that some of them lasted the whole time. This was long ago when the seasons were more predictable. But we found some of the tanks only lasted for a couple of weeks. And so we said, well, why is that? It's because they share. That's who these people are. So if I have a resource, it's yours as well. We have to have water for crops, so that water doesn't need to be clean, right? So there are different needs for different kinds of water situations. So for we started, this gets into a little bit of our agriculture attempts, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. It's just you can't talk about water without talking about the agriculture too. So we started by planting fruit trees. We then planted a school garden. Then the community, there were 3 community gardens that were developed really to feed the school kids because they get fed there 2 meals a day, and that was absolutely crucial. It's the most important thing in whether or not kids do well in school. Well, then we got the idea, well, okay, let's expand that and have community gardens. So that expanded to 17 community gardens. And then we said, well, what if those community gardens had irrigation? That would be a total game changer. So you take these water tanks, and instead of using them for home for drinking water, even though it's not clean, you use them for irrigation. So we said, okay, let's try that. So we did. So now there are community gardens that have irrigation systems, and that means drip irrigation systems. And I'll show you here. So this was the very first one. All these people were so excited they just couldn't stand it, with these 2 tanks, and they collect water off the top and have it all pumped out to their community garden. Now I wanted to show you this. These gardens are not like a little plot in your backyard. These are farms, you know, small farms. So you can see them putting in this drip system. And then here's the finished product. I did this for 2 reasons: to show you how big these gardens are, but also to show you how these people take care of their garden. It's with a hoe that's about 3 feet high. That's a traditional luau hoe. They get out there and use that hoe to do all of the work. And then they come to the hospital and they see our doctors and they say, I have back pain. And we go, yeah, of course you do. We also, in the past, have spent time helping them in their gardens and weeding. But you know what? We can't keep up. Even these young, fit college kids that I take over there can't keep up with the Kenyans. These are strong, hard workers. So if anybody talks to you and says, you know, we really shouldn't be giving money to these people because we're just going to foster dependence, because basically they're lazy and they just want us to do it. Absolutely not. These people are working every day. They are working as hard as they can. All we do is put the penny in the slot so that they can do what they were going to do anyway. And this is them working from day to day. You know what they do with that food? That's not for people there who do the work to eat. That is for the neediest people in their community that can't grow food because they're unable to for some reason. It's also food for the schools. And now we have 47 community gardens. And now they rotate who provides food for the school. And now we're growing all our own food. Their main staple crop is maize or corn, and they grind that up and use that cornmeal and make a staple that's sort of like grits, and they call it ugali. They say without ugali, we would die. And that's because it's the staple for them. But as you can imagine, it's all carbohydrates. So it's not terribly nourishing by itself. Then they grow a bunch of greens. They eat a lot of greens. They eat fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. So if things are going well, they can grow food very well. We also, I'm going to get into that because that's more agriculture. I want to stay with water. All right. Anybody know this guy, John Smith? He's local. John invented the filter, the water filter that we use, the Sawyer water filter. So when Rotary had their Peace Bowl celebration last February, over in the community center, and we had the big display inside of all the different organizations that were doing something that promotes peace, we were right next to the Sawyer water filter table by my request. I never met these people. And I saw this man and I talked to this man. And he is the most humble man you can ever hope to meet. And I said, do you have any idea how many millions of lives you've saved? And he said, God whispers in my ear and I do what he says. He's so humble. So he invented these water filters. This guy went on our trip in 2010 and had the vision for clean water and water filters. So he took off on that. So what happens over there depends on if we have a person that's the engine that has energy to put into it, and this guy did. So he brought some ceramic water filters at first. We didn't know about Sawyer water filters. And people started using them, and his name is Biff, so they called it Biff water. To this day, they still call filtered water Biff water. So we went 2 years ago and took 470 of these 47 communities, 10 per community. And each of those communities has a leader who is a natural leader that emerges and then is formalized as a coordinator. And that person has certain responsibilities, but that person is where all the work gets done. And that person looks out for her village and her community. They're almost all women. They are the ones usually that have the community garden and have the land to do that. So we were going to take these filters out to each one of these communities. Some of them are miles away. So we wanted to take 10 to each communities and then let the coordinator decide who got them. So we did. So that meant that we had to get these buckets over there. Hello, okay. Get these buckets, we had to drill them and put in a spigot, and then they had to be carried because many of these places are quite remote. So you can see this is very rocky, very remote land. And these Kenyans would go with us and they could carry those things on their heads when we couldn't physically do it. My husband is right there, and he actually, I have a picture of him on this trip where he has heavy hiking boots and they're duct taped together because they fell apart with all this hiking. So we had to assemble those and take them to 47 places. We trained the local coordinators to use the filter because it has to be treated well. It's not fragile, but it has to be cleaned every single day. So they demonstrated how it worked and how it had to be taken care of. And then we collected baseline data about where things were. We also got GPS for the water sources around. So we did that, and we did 10 of those visits each day with 2 teams. It was quite an undertaking. So do you remember the first time you had clean water? These people do. I took every one of these pictures myself and watched these people as they drank their first glass of clean water. And their eyes would get big and they would say, "It's so sweet." They were amazed at what it tasted like. I want to show you one thing over here. This is when they got their water. Whoops. Maybe I'm not able to do that. It's a little video, but I guess I'm not able to do that here for some reason. So now these children, I also took pictures of, they will not remember when they first got clean water, but that's a good thing. We don't want them to remember. We want them to think of it as this is how life is. We have clean water. When I was sitting next to John Smith last February at the Rotary event, I talked to him and I showed him these pictures. And then I felt a little chagrined and I thought, you know, he's seen thousands of pictures of people drinking clean water from the filter. And then I thought, you know what? He hasn't seen these people. And then I took that picture of him that I showed you, and I took the picture back last year to Kenya, and I went to those people and I showed the picture of John Smith to those people and said, this is the guy. Because for us, this is all personal. It is all about relationships. This has been going on now for 25 years, and we have no need and no desire to get bigger, to franchise, to spread out, to scale. Our goal is just to get deeper into this community and our relationships to get deeper. I'll just tell you, we also did a 1-year follow-up, and here's what we found. We found that approximately 4,700 people are now drinking clean water with these 470 filters. 10 people per filter are using them on average. All but 3 of those filters were working. There are people that think, oh, you know, these Africans, they're primitive, they're lazy, they can't take care of things, they're dirty. Wrong. They took care of them much better than a lot of us would. They treasured them and they took care of them every day and did the filtering and did the cleaning and the flushing out and all the things they had to do. And then we said, in the last several weeks, have you had stomach pain or diarrhea? 96% said no. Those are the symptoms you get when you have waterborne illness. And then we said, since you started drinking the Biff water, have your stomach aches completely stopped? 74% said yes. Now, I'm sure that they're also drinking some unfiltered water along the way, but this is huge. This is absolutely life-changing. Another thing that we're doing is we're measuring our kids at school and looking at children's growth who have clean water. Our first water well was paid for by Rotary. And this is when the first one was drilled. That's the tower with the solar panel on top to power the pump. And here is the pump itself, little thing that doesn't look very impressive, but it certainly was. And that lasted for 8 years. So this lasted us from 2015 to a couple of years ago. And then it quit working. That's not a failure. That's normal. And in Kenya, in Africa, wells generally last an average of about 10 years, 8 to 10 years. So ours was right on schedule. So we thought, okay, well, we've got to do it again because all our school kids had been drinking water and we needed it for our hospital as well. So we started working with one company that I ran into over there when I was there. One thing led to another, and Bev put me in touch with Peter Laddie, who is a Rotary person from California, who is a superstar global grant writer. And he was writing a grant that included water wells for a community that's very near where our group lives. So I called Peter and said, hey, is there any chance we could piggyback into this grant? And he said, yes. So we raised money for this, but it was much less than we would have had to raise had we done it ourselves or done it with this other company we were looking at, which was almost 3 times as much expense. So not only do we get the well, but and the pump, but we also get a kiosk and a meter to sell the water to whoever can afford it. Will our orphans and elders pay for the water? No. But if someone can pay, they expect to pay for water, just like they would here. So that starts new businesses. And so this was after the first well was drilled. And this is our leader over there named Habil. Habil was so excited and he sent these pictures and was saying, thank you to Rotary. So here's where the club was that Peter was already working with. This is their tower in one of their whole setups. And our guy went to visit them and they showed him, this is how we do it. They built relationships, and those people said, well, we hear you're irrigating and you're using this drip system. We don't know how to do that. Could you show us? They came over and our group taught them about irrigation. So now it's our turn to have these 4 new wells, and this is happening today. There are 40 wells, 3 of them have been drilled. One of them, we're going to have to find a new spot because they went down and they did not get water where they thought they would. That's just the way it goes. So we'll do a new survey, we'll look for a new spot. They decided where they wanted these based on where were the people that had the least access and were the least able to get anywhere to get water. So they're always looking out for the poorest of the poor. That's where I'm going to end, and to remind you that this table over here has things that were made. This is my friend right here who made some of these things as well. And I wanted you to see the people that we actually send the money back to who make these things. So they're over there. You'll see some price lists, and they're in meals. That's because $1 will buy a meal. So if you buy a basket for 20 meals, you're buying a basket for $20. So just think of it that way. If you're going to give me $20, $20 is going to go back to them, and in Kenya shillings, that will buy a meal, 20 meals, sorry. So that's a picture of one part of this very rich tapestry of relationships and activities that are going on in this one place. And you are absolutely pivotal in what is going on there. You have already saved lives, educated children, given people clean water, given people jobs. You have done that. You guys sitting in this room. This is who you've helped. Thank you so much.